to left field. There it goes. There goes Dean. He slides in. He's safe. What a roll for the Mariners, winners of 7 of their last 8, 11 of their last 14, and today we've got Game 3 of 4. The Mariners a chance for a series win against Blake Snell and the Tampa Bay Rays.
Go Avs, number 1. Number 1 in
Go Mariners! Yeah!
Going for number 3. Good job, Mariners. Get him, let's get him, let's get him.
A little bit of a different look to the lineup today. D. Gordon getting a day off. Gene Segura at the top. Our jack-in-the-box starting lineup.
Everybody will move up a spot. Span, Heredia, Romine rounding out the 9.
Fastball missing for ball 1 to Segura. The Mariners now very familiar with Blake Snell after seeing him on Sunday. Today is 14th start of the season. He has been one of the best starters in the American League this year.
It's average fastball this year, 95 miles an hour. Slider, curve, changeup to go with it.
A high chop.
Nobody at first.
And Segura will make a turn. He's headed on his second. Well, right away, a runner in scoring position. Bowers, the rookie.
Hit, E3 on Bowers. Again, Snell late getting off the mound. He probably should not throw this at all.
Bowers playing in just his 3rd major league game, made his debut in game 1 of this series. Well, right away, a chance for Mitch Haniger to drive in Gene Segura. We're just talking about this has been the most productive duo in the American League in terms of one batter driving in the other. Last night, the 15th time Haniger has driven home Gene Segura.
It's a big reason why Mitch is 3rd in the American League in RBIs with 47. So that's 13 home runs. When runners have been in a scoring position, he's hit over 300 this year.
Snell's 0-1. Now for Snell, 12 strikeouts over 6 scoreless, only 2 hits when he last saw the Mariners on Sunday. Rays today wearing their throwback uniforms, celebrating the 20th year of Rays baseball. Fred McGriff, and Mike, a very good friend of yours, an old teammate. Tino Martinez throwing out the first pitch today, not long ago.
Bobblehead with both of them.
They do a bobblehead.
Yeah.
Haniger ahead of the count, 2-1. Tino, an all-star with the ball club back in 1995.
Played 1 year with the Rays.
Interesting that Tino Martinez and Fred McGriff both from Tampa and both went to the same high school, Jefferson High School in Tampa. So some local guys ended up playing for the Rays, if not for a short time.
A lot of major league home runs.
That's right. McGriff had nearly 500 in his career. Segura at second, nobody out, top of the first. Full count. A good look at the bobblehead given out today. Both those guys still looking great as they threw out the first pitch. A couple of strikes.
They look like they can still play.
Well, the Mariners a chance to get to Snell very early. Here comes his 3-2. Dying in no man's land. Gomez is over to make the catch. Segura stays put. 1 out.
For Blake Snell, 13 starts on the year, a 2.36 ERA, 7-game winner so far, and 76 1/3. He has 88 strikeouts, just dominant stuff. Opponents hitting 180 against him. He has given up 8 home runs this year. And the defense behind him, Rob Refsnyder getting his first start in the series. He will be in left field. Christian Arroyo was at second base last night. Will move over to third this afternoon. Jesus Sucre, the former Mariner, will do the catching.
We've talked about what Snell did his last time out against the Mariners. A dozen strikeouts over 6 scoreless. 3 consecutive starts for Snell without giving up an earned run. The Red Sox, the A's, and the Mariners.
Just a couple of hits, didn't walk anybody. You also see he had to throw 100 pitches to get through 6 innings.
I mean, that was the sense that you got watching that game on Sunday, that if the Mariners could just hang tight, right, eventually, if Felix in particular could just outlast Snell, that at some point he'd have to get out of there because he was just throwing so many pitches to get all those strikeouts.
Well, you're right. And a talented young pitcher, so they had to protect him somewhat. 100 pitches was plenty. And Felix ended up going 8 innings to get the win. I mentioned his fastball on average at 95. At Safeco, his fastball was 97, 98 at times. It's dominating stuff, but 3 off-speed pitches, and opponents are hitting under 200 against all 3 of them.
I can understand why Snell was a little amped up to face the Mariners at Safeco Field. That was the first time that the Shoreline native had pitched at Safeco. He faced the Mariners before. In fact, his second career start came against the Mariners, but it was here inside Tropicana Field. And it was so important for Snell to pitch at Safeco Field this year that during the offseason and then again during spring training, he asked upper management if he could pitch at Safeco this season. That was really kind of a firm request from him.
Which, as far as I know, that is really unusual for a pitcher or a player to make that type of request.
But it meant so much to him to pitch in front of his family at that ballpark.
He certainly didn't disappoint the family. He really pitched well.
Segura back safe. And when I heard that, it struck me, one, along the lines of what you were saying, Mike, and then also what, for a young man who has not been in the majors all that long and is now having a breakout year, commands a little weight with the Rays to make a request like that. Of course, he's one of only a few starting pitchers, actual starting pitchers, that the Rays have. Cruz ahead 3-1. And has been 3 straight games for Kevin Cash where he has used an opener, a reliever, to start the game. Going anywhere from just a third of an inning to what we saw last night from Wilmer Font pitching into the 3rd inning itself. I'm sure Kevin Cash is happy to have a guy pitching like an ace up on the mound to start this game.
Another good changeup from him. As far as the request goes, I don't think it's really that big a deal. Obviously it was for him, but there is some work that is involved in something like that to make that happen, as far as where his normal turn is and how you're going to map all of that out. So good for the Rays for working with him on that.
3-2 to Cruz. Walked him. Segura moving into third base as that gets away from Sucre. Well, Gene's had some free bases in this inning.
I think this will be a pass ball, fastball inside, 96 miles an hour, and just handcuffs him. Never able to turn his glove back over, and that'll be a wild pitch.
That's the 7th wild pitch this year from Snell. Something to keep our eyes on.
You'd like to take advantage of it with Segura reaching on an infield hit, moving to second on the air, and now the wild pitch moving him up to third.
Chance here for Seager. Runners on the corners, 1 out. Going after the first pitch.
That was the curveball. 79 miles an hour. His slider is 87. Changeup about 87, 88.
And for the Mariners entering today, still in first place in the division. Mariners have won 7 of 8. They've won 11 of 14. And they are undefeated this year against the Rays, 5-0.
All close games.
You look at the dominance by the Mariners over the Rays. If you go back even as far as 2014, Mike, 21-6 in the last 27 games against Tampa Bay.
For the Rays, you look at their lineup, it's a bit strange. They can hit as far as hitting for average, but they've had a tough time scoring runs.
Especially lately, the offense has really been handcuffed. The 0-2. In play right side. Wendell flips out of the glove. Onto first. A stretch. Not in time. Seager is safe. Segura scores. And the Mariners are on the board of the first inning, 1-0. Pretty impressive play by Wendell.
Diving to his backhand. I think that right there, when he flipped the ball in the air with his glove, the ball stayed in the air long enough to give Kyle the opportunity to just beat it out. But for Kyle, the fielder's choice. But that'll be an RBI for him now. 38 RBIs on the year.
Well, the Mariners have more runs off of Snell, 4 batters into this ball game than they did over 6 innings on Sunday. Healy looks at strike 1.
Snell had not given up an earned run in his last 3 starts. So getting a run in the first inning is a big deal.
Really, you look at the season for Snell, the ERA is sparkling, 2.36. But keep in mind, he's really only had 2 clunkers. Both times 5 earned, both times 3 1/3 innings. Both times on the road, New York and Baltimore. Other than those 2 starts, it has been 2 earned runs or fewer every time. Popped up, foul ground. Sucre over, as is Bowers. And the former Mariner, Jesus Sucre, puts it away to end the first. The Mariners cash in, they get a run. And through 1/2 inning, Felix pitching with the lead. 8 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts against these Tampa Bay Rays, who, as usual, lead off with their shortstop Daniel Robertson having a very good beginning to the season.
And hitting third, Matt Duffy has played well against the Mariners, hitting .316 overall, 4 for 8 in this series. Hitting fifth, Carlos Gomez will move up in the lineup, and Jesus Sucre will round out the 9 for the Rays. For Felix, on the year, 6-game winner, 5.33 ERA, 62 strikeouts over 29 walks. Opponents hitting .248 against Felix.
Now, the numbers for Felix over the course of his career against Tampa Bay really are remarkable. 17 starts for Felix against the Rays. A career 1.89 earned run average. Hard hit out to Segura. 2 pitches and 1 out.
Let's take a look at the defense for the Mariners. Denard Span getting the start out in left field was Gamble last night, but Span this afternoon. Andrew Romine will be at second base. D. Gordon getting the afternoon off, and Mike Zunino will do the catching.
Not only are the cumulative numbers for Felix against the Rays spectacular, he's had 2 of the best starts of his career against the Rays. Obviously, the perfect game back in 2012. This pitch plug in the gap. Ryan chasing after it. And Jake Bauers comes up with his first career big league hit. It's a stand-up double off of Felix Hernandez. And the Bauers family, they've waited a couple of nights. And their son gets his first hit.
And Ryan Healy remembers what that was like. Being the first major league hit. On the first pitch, gets a fastball in the middle of the plate and lines it into the gap out in right center field. The previous 2 games, he has actually hit the ball hard and finally gets his first hit. Mom is not booing the umpire this time, Aaron. I love that conversation that you had with her.
We ran into her mom and dad outside the ballpark after game 1, and they were obviously still on cloud 9, even though their young son did not pick up his first hit, and he was robbed a couple of times by D. Gordon. And I did happen to ask her if she was booing the umpire on a check swing. She admitted, she happily admitted that she was. Duffy shoots this out to left center, and Heredia is able to hold on with a snow cone. Bauers making the turn, throw to second. We are tied. Back-to-back doubles, even at 1.
Going to end up in the middle of the plate. Jams him a little bit. It's a soft line drive. Heredia had been playing over towards right center field, trying to get it in quickly, but it'll be a double. Both starters giving up a run here in the first.
Here is Joey Wendell. As Jim points out, Mike, it's always kind of interesting when you have a pitcher making consecutive starts against the same team, and in this case both guys facing the opponent for the second time in a short span. Advantage one side or the other?
I think first of all for Felix, I think it would be an advantage to him because he's a veteran pitcher and he's going to move the ball around. You look in the first outing, he used his fastball, curveball, and changeup. Did not throw his slider. Threw his fastball 34% of the time, his curveball 34% of the time, his changeup 31% of the time. So really mixed it up and was throwing quality strikes. He threw 106 pitches, 70 strikes in that outing.
Soft fly ball out to Denard Span. 2 outs.
And I think if the Rays are going to be aggressive with Felix, that should play into his hands, especially with the good changeup that he almost always has.
Sorry, Mike. I know you just said something, but I couldn't hear it.
Your favorite walk-up song? Yeah, I understand.
It's back.
I understand.
It's curious if SpongeBob SquarePants was a one-day thing for Carlos Gomez. Apparently it is not. Going after the first pitch, fouls it over by Seager.
Looks like they're going to be aggressive. 2-0 Felix starting him with a curveball, so he can mix it up. And on the other side with Snell, I think that just comes down to stuff. When you have a guy that's throwing 95 to 97 with the off-speed pitches that he has, again, the Mariners were able to score in the first, but make him work so you can get him out of the game early.
As Gomez is known to do from time to time, he nearly loses his helmet. It's 0-2.
I think he also hit Mike on the follow-through. Mike Zunino doing the catching this afternoon. That's the changeup.
You're right. Flip the mask. Go ahead, run aboard. Gomez hitting just 189 this year, but plenty of power. 7 home runs. He swings and misses. Felix gets out of the first inning, does allow a run, but strands the go-ahead run at second base. We are tied through an inning. Florida State softball team, and you might remember there was that incredible diving catch against the Huskies, and it was Jessica Warren who made the catch. It is Seminoles night, or Seminoles afternoon here inside Tropicana Field. Peter Warwick, the former wide receiver for FSU, threw out one of the first pitches. I'm sure Florida State Day at the ballpark makes this man not too pleased.
Not at all.
The former Gator who still makes his home in Gainesville. 2-0 to Mike Zunino. You ran into the Zuninos.
Yeah, Mike's mom and dad in the lobby of the hotel this morning, and we were talking about Mike a little bit, and I'd forgotten. I think either Mike or Mr. Zunino had mentioned it to me, but way back in the day, Aaron, when I was drafted, Mike's dad, who's a scout, was a part of that process to get me drafted and signed. So I thanked him for it.
For sure.
Yeah.
2-2.
But I thought somebody maybe said something to me when Mike, who was a first-round pick, when he was in Seattle right after the draft, I thought somebody had mentioned that to me. But anyway, it was nice to see them today. I had mentioned that Florida was actually playing their baseball game as we were leaving the hotel. So I mentioned it because of the ties to Mike, obviously. And Mr. Zunino was talking about it. He goes, maybe I should pay a little more attention to it. But
inside, full count to Zunino leading off the second. Mike's dad has been a scout for many years. Mike really kind of growing up in the game as a result. Pop softly, foul off the first base side. Bowers handles it. Now the Reds selected Jonathan India out of the University of Florida, third baseman.
He mentioned that to me too, that they had their first round pick out of Florida. You'll like this too, Ernie. He started it by telling me about the scouting thing and getting me signed. He said this is going to make me sound old. Well, I guess it makes you sound old too. It makes you old too. It was great. Nice people. Happy to be able to watch their son over the weekend.
I'm sure. First pitch strike at 96 to Denard Span. Span, a line drive over Wendell's glove. Now towards the gap. Gomez slides to cut it off. Span chugging for two. And he tiptoes in safe. Leadoff double. Pardon me, a one-out double.
Line drive, wasn't sure that it was going to be high enough to get over Wendell's glove, but toward the gap, and then Gomez makes a fine play in right center field. I thought this might be a triple. He was able to cut it off and hold him to a double.
One out, the go-ahead run in scoring position for Guillermo Heredia.
Carlos Gomez, and right, one of the few veterans on this team.
Strike one. Well, you know, speaking of dads, Blake's father, Dave Snell, at one point a minor league player, and at one point a minor leaguer in the Mariners organization. In fact, if you go back and you look at the 1985 Bellingham Mariners, Dave Snell was a teammate with Omar Vizquel. Already behind 0-2. To center and playable. Smith settles underneath. Span has to stay put. 2 outs. Well, the Mariners celebrate young players all over the Pacific Northwest with Youth Baseball Day on Sunday, June 17th. All kids 14 and under will receive Mariners Eye Black stickers. Thanks to Aquafina. Get tickets for the whole family at mariners.com. You know what's more? Bellingham in 1985 for Dave Snell. In 1988, if you were to thumb through the Vermont Mariners media guide, the Vermont Mariners, you would see that Dave Snell was teammates with the one and only Ken Griffey Jr. Long way from Seattle.
It's a long way from Seattle.
Was there not a closer affiliate that was available at the time? Broken bat up the middle. Robertson's throw high. Tag not applied. Romine is safe. Broken bat squibber, and Romine is aboard with 2 outs. Span into third.
Tries to get rid of it quickly. The throw is high. Bauer's not able to handle it. Maybe Snell ended up getting a piece of his glove to slow it down as it was going back up the middle.
They have charged Robertson with an error on that throw. Oh, Segura head of the hand. Oh, my goodness. We've seen this once already this year.
96 miles an hour.
Now Snell's hearing it from somebody.
Snell thought it might have been a foul ball off the knob of the bat, and he was asking the umpire about it. There's Segura. He's choking up, and that hits him on the back of the hand. It's left hand, so it won't bother him throwing the ball. Good news, he'll stay in the game for now. 96 miles an hour, Primera Supermo. They've had a piece of the bat, but I think it hit his hand first. Opportunity for Mitch Haniger to drive in a run.
Kyle Snyder, the pitching coach, out for a chat.
Mitch flew out to right his first time up.
Two outs, bases loaded. Haniger a chance for his second career grand slam in this building. Looking at ball one. Last August the 19th for Haniger off Jake Odorizzi. His only other career grand slam.
So far in the series, the Mariners are 0 for 4 with the bases loaded. So they're due.
Line drive, caught on a line by Robertson. They had the throwing error a few moments ago. This time hauls it in, and the Mariners leave him loaded. Columbia Bank difference of the game, saving some runs for the Rays.
Haniger hits this ball about as hard as you can. Breaking ball at 90. And the elevation from Robertson, the shortstop. Definitely been a couple of runs for the Mariners. Some bad luck.
And leave them loaded. Alex Smith, the center fielder, leads it off for Tampa Bay to begin the bottom of the second.
Felix, 12 pitches, 11 strikes in the first.
Now, the best 77 minutes of Mallex Smith's life came when he was a Mariner, right before he was then traded. Of course, Jerry Dipoto, once he acquired Mallex Smith from the Braves, he did let him know, don't get too comfortable. We have something in the works.
We'll be talking later today.
Probably within about an hour or so. Felix is 0-2. The funny thing that Jerry shared about that exchange on the phone with Mallex Smith when he traded for him and then traded him away was when he made the call and told Mallex Smith that he had in fact been traded to Tampa Bay. The first words out of Mallex's mouth were, "Oh man, I thought I was going to be able to meet Griffey." And what he doesn't know or didn't know is that he might have a better chance of meeting Griffey playing for the Rays than playing in Seattle. A lot closer to home for Junior. But that was the
That's
most
a great
exciting
reaction,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
Still 1-2. Some of the best 77 minutes of my life. It was awesome. Environment was crazy. You know, the Rays had some fun with this. Still getting fan mail. All the work that I put in over there. Ground ball finds open space on the left side. Beat off single Mallex Smith.
A lot of speed. Have to keep an eye on him.
Join the Mariners at beautiful Safeco Field on Friday. They'll face off against the Red Sox at 7:10. Then be sure to stick around after the game. It is the first of 5 fireworks shows of the summer presented by Move at 92.5 and T-Mobile. Great seats still available. Just go to mariners.com. Christian Arroyo on the first pitch, and this finds open space. A couple of seeing eye ground balls for the Rays. Now we go back to the Ford Sports desk. We check in with Bradley. Brad? Thank you, Brad. Well, you're right. Couple of base hits to begin things. 4 hits to the first 7 batters for Tampa Bay. But shown by Ref Snyder. 1-1.
Kyle was playing in at third, so he was ready for it.
Snyder, a guy who has typically started against lefties. Obviously not the case today. That's been his primary role. It was only his 7th start against a right-handed pitcher. The 0-2. He's batting with Smith at second base, Arroyo at first. Oh, and foul.
A couple of ground ball base hits here in the inning, and right now Felix is trying to get another ground ball, see if he can get a double play. The reason why he's throwing his changeup so much.
It continues.
It's a good fastball. Everything inside. ground ball percentage for Felix's changeup, the highest out of all the pitches that he throws.
Another 0-2. Smith taken off for third. Soft fly ball. Segura back on it. Base hit. And now it goes past Heredia. Smith now taken off. Throw to third. Arroyo safe. Smith scores. Rays have the lead.
That will be a base hit and an error. Couple of ground ball hits, and then a soft fly ball hits it in the right spot for the Rays, and it looked as if Heredia was in good shape. I'm not sure why Gene tried to grab it. Smith heading back, not sure if it was going to be caught. He was trying to steal third.
Sucre up the middle. Romine stops it. Long throw on a bounce, and it is in time to get Sucre. Arroyo crosses, but Sucre is out. It's a 2-run lead for the Rays.
Romine filling in for D. Gordon, and this is as good as it gets. You can see him lunging to make the backhanded play, and all his momentum going out towards left field. A one hop over to Healy, who's able to stretch out just far enough and keep his foot on the base to get Sucre. Sucre will pick up an RBI with the ground out. Felix needed some help from his defense, and there it was.
Snyder now at third with 2 outs. 0-1 on Robertson.
That field's not all the way in. Probably about halfway, maybe a little more than halfway in.
Off the hand, Seager off his feet. On to first base, and they get the out there. Snyder is in. Seager thought about coming home, only played at first.
I think he was going to throw the ball home, but I'm not sure that he was able to get a handle on it right away. Didn't have the right grip because he was looking as he wanted to throw and decides to go to first. And then keep an eye on Healy. Able to keep his foot on the base. The Rays dugout thought that maybe Ryan had pulled his foot off the base, but I'm not going to challenge it.
Appeal on the check swing. It does not go. 1-0 to Bowers. Been a pretty odd bottom of the second. 3 runs have scored for the Rays. They have scored 3 runs or fewer in 7 of their 8 games during this 8-game losing streak. The longest active losing streak in the majors.
They have not hit the ball hard at all in this inning. A couple of ground ball base hits. Fly ball, yeah, flare, and a couple of ground outs to produce the 3 runs.
Bowers a double and a run scored back in the first. And Bowers strikes out. No.
Full count.
Boy. Well, can't delay the inevitable. There it is. That ends the inning. A 3-run frame for the Rays. Mariners baseball on Root Sports is brought to you by Safeco Insurance. Find a local agent at safeco.com. Do more. And by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 191, investing in our future. On that bottom of the second was the Bermuda Triangle of innings.
Strange inning.
Nelson Cruz leads it off for the Mariners in the third. Mariners now playing from behind, 4-1 Tampa Bay.
Seconding 3 runs for the Rays. 2 of them earned.
Shot a mile high and foul.
One of those things about this game that can be frustrating for you. About 2 ground ball hits and the flare into the outfield, the error, of course. A couple of ground outs gets you 3 runs, and Mitch Haniger with the bases loaded hit the ball as hard as you could possibly hit it, but the shortstop was able to catch it to get out of the inning.
No, you're right. Snell walked Cruz back in the first inning. They appealed. He does not go. It's a full count.
Trying to get him to chase the curveball down out of the strike zone.
Off the hands and right to the ankles, caught by Bauer. One out. And here comes Kyle Seager. Seager, a run scoring fielder's choice in the first inning, the lone run so far today by the Mariners. Ball 1. Now Snell from Shoreline, Washington, went to Shorewood High. Of course, growing up as a huge Mariners fan. In fact, was such a fan that the family chocolate lab in the Snell household, its name, Junior. Like you'll like this also, a huge Huskies fan. Of course, he was a UW commit before being drafted by Tampa Bay.
And the Huskies playing at 6:30 tonight. Won the first game against Cal State Fullerton yesterday.
So a win away from Omaha.
And Oregon State playing at 9:30. They also won yesterday.
Very nice. Evens up on Seager. Seager down swinging. Now Snell's numbers against lefties have just been vicious. He strikes out Seager. Lefties hitting 114 against him.
Well, we talked about his slider. Owens had barely touched his slider this year. Coming into the game, an 0.91 average on his slider, so you can see why it would be so difficult against left-handers with that velocity.
Healy scorches this out to right field. Gomez plays it out of bounds. Healy, a 2-out single. brings up Mike Zunino. Ride the Link Light Rail for free, now extended through July 8th. Show your game ticket for a free round-trip ride to Safeco Field, courtesy of the Mariners. Save both time and money by taking the train to the game. You can find more details by going to mariners.com/go. 2 outs, a man aboard for Zunino. They have the shift on for him. Oh, 2. Couple of fastballs from Snell.
And the fastball at 95 to 97 at the top of the strike zone. A lot like James Paxton, is tough to catch up to. It's another high fastball.
Plays off ball 1. There goes Healy. Sucre, long throw. Healy slides in. He's safe.
Not an easy read for Ryan Healy. Sometimes it's difficult to see where the ball is, and how far away from the catcher it has gone, but he takes off. Sucre with one of the better throwing arms in the league. Makes it a close play on the wild pitch.
That's the second wild pitch from Snell. Now 8 on the season. Pretty high number. And the dirt, full count. I mentioned Paxton. James, of course, pitching tomorrow. That'll be the final game of the road trip. Mariners will be back home for a week. The Angels and then the Red Sox. Ball 4 to Zunino. Mike falling behind 0-2, working it back, draws ball 4. And Snell wants to have a chat with Sucre.
Denard Span walking to the plate, doubled his first time up out to right center field. Snell has given up 8 home runs this year, just 1 to a left-hander.
And that left-hander?
Joey Gallo.
Yeah, so it's not the easiest thing. Span the tying run at the plate with 2 outs. A chop off the plate and foul. Couldn't help but notice, speaking of Gallo, that last night when the Astros put their 4-man right side of the infield shift on against Gallo, he dropped down a bunt and reached base. Now, this was in a situation, it was around the 6th inning. Rangers were down by a couple, brought the tie-in run to the plate. So Gallo picking his spots. Even Joey Gallo to bunt.
Did they have all the infielders on the right side?
Yeah, I don't think there was a soul on the left side of the infield. Slides down to play. 0-2.
2 outs. Ryan Healy gets the base hit, and then Mike Zunino, Aaron mentioned, falls behind 0-2, ends up getting a walk, and what all this is doing is adding to the pitch count of Snell. It's another reason why the Mariners were able to win the ball game against Snell. Helix obviously pitched well, 8 innings, just the 1 earned run, but he was only able to go 6 innings in that outing. They had to pull him after 100 pitches.
The 0-2. Sliced out to left. Refsnyder is there near the corner, and he makes the catch. Mariners grant a couple. They go to the bottom of the third. We'd like to welcome Direct Link subscribers from Canby, Oregon. Thanks for rooting on the Seattle Mariners. All of us at Root Sports, Mike, myself, and the rest of the crew, we appreciate your support. Thanks for tuning in. First pitch to Matt Duffy. Duffy, a run-scoring double back in the first inning. Segura to his left, takes it on a bounce, throws high. Healy stays anchored, and they get the out. Nice work, Ryan Healy.
Keeps his toe on the base.
Yeah, I like having a power forward as my first baseman.
That helps. He's already made a number of plays at first.
Leadoff man retired. Here is Joey Wendell. Wendell off the end of the bat. This man is there, and the left fielder makes the catch for round number 2. 4 pitches, 2 outs for Felix. Our CenturyLink What's Next final game of the series and road trip. It is James Paxton versus Nathan Eovaldi. Paxton's ERA now checking in, Mike, at a 2.95.
Chance to see some velocity tomorrow.
Say so.
Both of them will be in the mid to upper 90s.
Carlos Gomez looking at ball 1. Mike, Carlos Gomez has done something that few have done in this game's history, and that you could have done, Mike, if you simply would have just stopped running. Carlos Gomez hit for the cycle twice.
It makes a little more sense for him with his speed.
If you had just taken a single instead of running to second base for another double,
yeah,
it could have been a part of that short list.
You're right. My dad would have been disappointed in me, though, so
The 2-1. Hey, two doubles is better than a double and a single after all, so it's all right. Three and one. Gomez calls for time.
But I did not know that about Gomez.
Most recently did it as a member of the Rangers.
I think John Olerud also hit for the cycle a couple of times.
Two-out walk. Olerud cycling in a Mariners uniform in San Diego. Two-out walk. It brings in Alex Smith. Smith singled and scored in the second.
He's the one that got things started for the Rays in the second inning.
Gomez safe. Shot to right field. Haniger back, looking, and gone.
Mitch Haniger didn't think so. He thought it hit off the top of the fence.
Well, it looked like first base umpire was signaling for a home run, but maybe he was not.
No, I think you're right. I think that he did, but I'm not sure that he was sure about it.
A half-hearted home run signal?
Well, I was just watching Mitch and his reaction.
Well, it's off the yellow. That bounced back, right?
That's the way that Mitch played it.
Because your thought is if it's going to bounce back like that, it would have hit a seat and bounced back, but it hit off the yellow line.
And the other part of it is Mitch is standing right there, so he has the best view from Era Supermo.
Doink.
That hit off the railing, I think.
Sure did. Well, Scott's going to come out and have them take a look at this.
And Scott is on his way out.
Yep. This is an umpire review. Will not be officially a challenge. And they'll be able to see what happened pretty quickly.
Marvin Hudson, the home plate umpire.
Now, clear as day there, right?
Ball never disappears. Never goes behind the line.
Nope.
Well, looks like that will be a triple.
Now we'll step aside as they take a look at this. Should be coming back though. Some Alex Smith an RBI triple. Gomez scoring from first base after the 2-out walk. Christian Arroyo looking at ball one. (5-1) Tampa Bay. Seager has to maybe get off his glove. It's into left field. Smith scores. Arroyo an RBI single.
.83 miles an hour out over the plate, just under the glove of Kyle Seager. And the Rays are now 3 for 6. Runners in scoring position. So a situation that they have struggled in this year,
especially recently. During this 8-game losing streak, they had been batting .163 with runners in scoring position.
48 pitches for Felix, 35 strikes.
Two and one to Ref Snyder. All these runs, both of them coming with 2 outs. Began with a 2-out walk to Gomez. Two and two. Foul ball. Now Felix, of course, really struggled through the month of May, and then began this month with such a terrific start against these Rays at Safeco Field. Just the 1 run over 8 innings. Soft pop-up off the hand. Segura is out in shallow left. And that ends the 3rd inning. A couple of more runs scored for Tampa Bay. They lead it 6-1. One as we start the top of the 4th. Join T-Mobile in showing your appreciation for all military and vets by sharing a photo or video using hashtag #HatsOffForHeroes. For each tweet or post, T-Mobile will donate $1 to support veterans. This one not going the way Felix had in mind. Bullpen is warming up. Already it pops the first pitch. Gomez, the right fielder, calls it in for round number 1.
Elias getting loose in the pen.
Really hardly seen Elias since he was called up. Just a couple of innings. Chance for him to get some work in today. One out for Andrew Romine. Strike 1. Now this is the life of a bench player in the American League, as you get a chance to crack into the starting lineup and you go up against one of the most feared young arms in the league. This is no easy day.
No, it's not. Getting a chance to play some second base. D. Gordon getting the afternoon off. I'd say most of the time you end up with a tough draw in that job.
Fastball rises above the zone. 1-2. Full count.
Making him work. This will be the 7th pitch in the at bat. It's now 65 pitches so far.
Well, just the one strikeout. That's a far cry from what we saw on Sunday at Safeco Field, when he struck out 12 in the first 7 batters. In play off the fists, and it dunks in for a base hit. Ticks off of Bauer's glove. Romine holds it first.
Good idea to stay there, down by 5 runs. Worked hard in that at bat, 7 pitches, and picks up a single. That's 2 hits. He gets jammed, but stays fair for him. Great effort by Bowers, the first baseman. Mariners with 4 hits and Romine with 2.
One out, a man aboard for Segura.
Gene was hit on the back of the hand. 96-mile-an-hour fastball his last time up. So it's great to see him in the ball game.
Could not believe it when I learned that that was the first career hit batter for Blake Snell, spanning nearly 300 major league innings.
That is amazing, isn't it?
Up the middle, Joey Wendell. The flip, Robertson to first. Double play gets Snell out of the top of the 4th. We go to the home half. at Tropicana Field, you will find Space Invaders. Now, stage 9 feels like they got a ways to go, but you know, a couple of young men, they'll get there. A little off target there. Nice activity for in between innings here at the ballpark. And they're moving on to stage 9. What a day. Now, Mike, a little earlier than we expected, our Beacon Plumbing call to the pen.
Felix today, 3 innings, 7 hits, 6 runs, 5 of them earned. Had 1 walk, couple of strikeouts, 53 pitches for Felix.
Our Beacon Plumbing call to the pen takes us to Rowanus Elias.
This will be his second outing. So far, just a couple of innings for him, a strikeout. Fastball, curveball, changeup for Elias. His average fastball, 94 miles an hour.
First pitch strike to Sucre. Well, Mike, what do you make of this for Felix? Obviously, he had the kind of tough luck second inning with 3 runs, but allowing runs in one form or another in all 3 innings that he worked. Obviously, the pitch count is not a problem. What do you make of them going to Elias this early?
I think it just wasn't working out for him today, and I think we've been talking about it because the starters, including Felix in his last outing, had all been getting deep into the games, that the guys in the pen haven't been getting any work. And just mentioned Elias, this is just the second time he's been on the mound. So for Scott, he's going to give some guys an opportunity to get some work in here today out of the pen. Especially true with Elias, because if you think about it, he's the long guy out in the pen, and there just hasn't been any opportunities to get him in the game.
Right. Well, when the majority of your rotation is going into the 7th plus.
Right. And you have a lead, you're going to use the back end of your bullpen. It's a good curveball right at the bottom of the strike zone.
Not where he wants it. For the Mariners, the bullpen, it feels like it's been the same few guys working the majority of the games recently because of all the close games and starters going so deep. Soft fly ball. Segura is out on it. 1 down. Now be sure to join us after this one's over with for Mariners postgame, presented as always by Alaska Airlines. One out for Daniel Robertson. Mike, our Alaska Airlines Wheels Up feature from San Francisco was posted last night by the Mariners social team. And for those of you who would like to see a big leaguer eat a bacon sandwich, Mike Flowers tells you exactly how to do it.
Thanks again for breakfast, by the way.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Nice video series we're putting together this year in conjunction with Alaska Airlines. You can find it on the Mariners social channels, particularly on Twitter. 1-1 here to Robertson.
Have you made other plans yet? I know you had Nelson.
Right, we've done 4 of them now.
Yeah.
We've done Nelly. We did Dan Altavilla, which I think is yet to be released possibly. Dan and I went shopping for cowboy boots in Arlington.
I remember
actually
that.
in Fort Worth, if you want to be particular about it. So that was quite the experience. I had little idea how much you could actually spend on a pair of cowboy boots. More than some people's car, actually. The 2-1. There goes the bat. Two and two. Robertson gets that bat back. Zanino trying to bring that one back a little bit, but a full count. Swing and a miss for strike 3. 2 outs.
That's a good fastball today. 95 miles an hour on the fastball.
Fresh arm.
Right at the bottom of the strike zone.
You know, Mike, one of the most memorable Wheels Up feature we did was with James Paxton and Dee Gordon when we went to the Negro Leagues Museum together in Kansas City and then ate barbecue. And Dee, when we were talking about the Eagle incident with James, Dee told James that he should be awarded citizenship for having that bald eagle land on his shoulder. Well, Bowers, who picked up his first career big league hit in the first, picks up his second hit here in the 4th inning.
He's hit the ball hard a couple of times, including this line drive right back up the middle. Stays on top of a high fastball.
Two-out single brings up Duffy.
Well, with Paxton and D, that was the first one, right?
Right, sure was. Oh, and 1 on Duffy. Duffy, a run-scoring double in the first inning. Now, Dee and I also went out to the Royals Hall of Fame, Royals Museum out in left field, where they pulled up a bunch of old pictures of his dad, Flash Gordon, when he was pitching for Kansas City. And it was great to watch Dee FaceTime his sister and show his sister the photos of their dad.
Yeah.
From way back when. It was pretty cool to see.
That's very cool.
Especially when one of the photos had his father posing with this big silver bowl, which was Dee thinks was for winning the Minor League Player of the Year award. And Dee saw that bowl and said, "Oh my goodness, I remember using that as a hoop for basketball inside when it rained in Florida and I couldn't go in the driveway." Curve spins away, 2-2.
Speaking of big leaguer's son, I believe Von Rodriguez, his son was starting for the Giants today, which would have been his second start.
Yeah, he was somewhat recently called up. Check swing, appeal, he goes. Duffy strikes out. A couple of strikeouts for Elias, his first inning of work out of the 5th. Two-hitter Mitch Haniger leads things off for the Mariners in the top of the 5th. Mariners trailing 6-1. Well, our latest hashtag Ask Root. Mike, viewer wants to know what has been the main contributing factor for this terrific start this year from Mitch Haniger.
I don't think that he's changed anything as far as his approach at the plate or his mechanics. And when you listen to Mitch talk about his hitting, it's basically the same thing, just trying to find a way to get the barrel to the ball. But I think that he has benefited. Let's see this fly ball out to right. I think from where he's hitting the lineup and that he's been healthy. Last year he was hurt a couple of different times, and this year he's been healthy for the most part, and he's been able to hit third and clean up. When Nelson was on the disabled list, he was the cleanup hitter, and I think more than anything else, it's important for young players to get off to a hot start, and he was able to do that. But when you consider where he's hitting in the lineup, we talked about his RBIs. Seems that he hits a lot with Gordon and Segura on base. That helps too.
Good place to be.
Yep.
One out, first pitch to Cruz. Upper inside corner, strike one. And Mike, this is kind of a, not that this game is an outlier, but it's kind of an odd start time, 4 o'clock local.
Yeah.
It's not really a day game. It's not really a night game. A little different from a routine standpoint for the guys. Not don't you kind of wake up and go, well, what time should I get to the ballpark? What time should I start doing X, Y, and Z? Because this is just different.
Yeah, and you get these from time to time, and it just kind of depends on the players. I think for most of them, they just look at it as it's just another day game for them, even though the times are a little bit different.
Oh, this has some carry to it. Slicing deep right. Gomez track wall gone. Nelson Cruz, number 12 on the season, comes in the 5th inning.
Nelson prefers this start time today. Well, again, you never know in this game. Snell now at 74 pitches. Just hold the Rays to where they're at right now and chip away at it. And that certainly helps. A quick run. Set up away. Fastball in the middle of the plate. Barrels it up. So much power to all fields. But to your point, it's one of the reasons why typically Sunday day games, they're to the point now where it's rare to see either team hit on the field. On those days, they'll typically hit in the cages. In today's game, it looked as if Scott made it optional for the guys. Some guys hit on the field, some guys will hit in the tunnels, just what they want to do. Don't think Nelson hit on the field today.
Seager behind 0-2. Smith at center. 2 outs. And the biggest difference between hitting on the field and hitting in the tunnel would be?
Some guys just want to see the fly to the ball. You know, I think most players, I think, would prefer to hit on the field most of the time, but you get into situations like today, and I think some of them are just trying to take care of themselves, so they go in, hit in the cage, they can get their work done quicker that way. But on the field, I think, I'm trying to think of the starters today. I think Ryan Healy was definitely one of the hitters on the field today. Romine hit on the field. All the guys that were not in the starting lineup hit on the field except for maybe D. So.
Two outs, 0-1 to Healy.
380 feet on the home run by Cruz.
Stays alive.
Snell at 80 pitches now.
Gomez nears the line in right field. Adjusts back. Puts it away for round number 3. Cruz, the one-out blast. Mariners inch a run closer. All right, thank you, Brad. Joey Wendell leads it off facing Elias.
Second inning for Elias. Couple of strikeouts in the 4th inning for him. That's a good fastball today. That fastball at 93, topped out at 95.
Different delivery that time from Roenis.
Yes, Aaron, he will change arm angles from time to time, especially to the left-hander.
Seager, a long run for this foul ball. Roenis was working in relief earlier this year when he was in the Red Sox organization of the minors in AAA. And then being stretched out as a starter once he was reacquired by the Mariners. Now working as a long man out of the Mariners bullpen. Sidearm slings it for a swing and a miss, strike 3.
Takes a lot off of the breaking ball.
Enjoy matinee baseball by taking a 9-inning lunch break at Safeco Field this Wednesday. The Mariners host the Angels. 1:10 will be our start time. Head to mariners.com. Reserve your seats. He just picks up his 3rd strikeout. Ball 1 to Gomez. Span charges in left field, puts on the brakes. 2 down. That brings up Alex Smith.
Having a good afternoon. Good series for him. 6 for 9 in the series.
There's that 95-mile-an-hour heater again.
Top of the strike zone. Only his second appearance with the Mariners this year.
His best year in the majors was his rookie year back in 2014. 29 starts for the Mariners at .385 run average. Fastball gets away. 2-1. Walk rate was maybe a little bit higher than Rowanus would have liked that first season. Good job keeping the ball in the ballpark. Pitched very well. Drops down again. Out to center. Heredia puts the squeeze on for out number 3. Elias retires his side in order. We've completed 5. Seattle Mariners baseball on Root Sports is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Steel. To find your local Steel dealer, visit steeldealers.com. 6-2 Rays move to the 6th inning. First pitch missing to Mike Zunino for ball 1. Sales pitch count beginning to add up a little bit. 82 now through 5+. Shift is on for Mike.
thought it was interesting yesterday during batting practice, and Mike was having a conversation with Edgar about the leg kick that he has, something he picked up last year. And Gar were talking about it. So when they were done, Mike started to hit in the cage again. I was asking Edgar about it, and Edgar said that the tendency, and there's a lot of guys in the game now with the leg kick, you can generate a lot of power from it. Edgar was somebody that had the high leg kick also. But he said the key to it is you have to get it started a little bit earlier so you stay soft, and I don't think he went to it that time. That was interesting. But on that leg kick, Haniger does the same thing. They all do, but he wants them to be softer on it, not go as quickly. And he did. He just, with 2 strikes, no leg kick at all. Just a little bit of a stride and a gliding forward, inside out swing to pick up a base hit. So that's something new for Mike.
Interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, Edgar was saying that the tendency sometimes when you see guys that are late or caught in between, is they start going too fast and then they overstride with it, which makes your head move, and that's the reason why you're late. So he said for all the guys that have that leg kick, that's something he watches all the time with them, to try to get him, make sure that they get started a little bit earlier so they can go slower when they pick that foot up, and then they can put it down, and it's not a big long stride out towards the mound. I thought it was interesting to listen to Mike, but that right there was, I don't think we've seen that this year.
And what's the purpose of reducing the leg kick with 2 strikes in this case?
For Mike right there, again, because he was talking to Edgar, so he probably just isn't comfortable with where it's at right now. He's trying to find something. So with 2 strikes, because he was late, he decided he was just going to trust his hands, and it worked for him.
Time called.
That used to be a fairly common 2-strike approach. You just don't see it in the game today.
Wait, a what?
A 2-strike.
No, I don't.
A 2-strike approach, Aaron.
I don't know. I've never.
Right.
I don't know what that is, Mike.
Well, why would you? In today's game, everybody swings and don't worry about strikeouts or anything like that. So that was nicely done by Mike Zunino.
Inside. One to Span. He shoots this down the left field line. Base hit. Brett Snyder sliding stop. Zunino chugging for third. Zunino slides. Came up short. He's out.
And that's a mistake by Mike to play right in front of him. Now 4 runs.
Span into second.
And here's the leg kick I was talking about. This is earlier in the count. That was the 2nd strike to Mike. So with 2 strikes, just kind of glides forward. Inside out swing. Picks up a base hit.
One out Span at second for Heredia. Back out of the way.
That is a single for Span, by the way, since Mike was thrown out at third. When that happened, you could see Mike shaking his head immediately. He knew that he had made a mistake.
Off the hands to third base. Arroyo stays with it. They get out number 2.
It jams him a little bit. Routine ground ball to the third baseman. Arroyo drops it. Fortunately, it stays close to him, recovers quickly with a strong throw.
Isn't it kind of strange, especially to be in this building, see a ground ball to third base and say something other than Longoria?
That's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but yes. Which we saw Longoria earlier this year, and you and I were talking about how strange it was to see him in a Giants uniform.
And McCutchen.
And McCutchen, too.
Particularly Longoria, who we see every year, or had been seen every year. 2-out span at second. Here is Romine. Romine really worked a nice at bat. His last time up was rewarded with a single.
And 1 for 2. He'd reached on an error earlier in the ball game.
Breaks his bat, and the shortstop Robertson glides in to make the catch for out number 3. Now 6 strong innings for Seattle product Blake Snell. Rays lead at 6-2. Rays lead at 6-2. Well, the Orca card is all you need to ride the Sounder train. Link, light rail, buses, ferries, and streetcars. You can learn more at getorcasmart.com. Ali is on for his 3rd inning of work in back of Felix, who went just 3 innings.
And he's throwing the ball well. 2 innings, 3 strikeouts.
In play, over to Gene Segura. 1 down. Brings up the number 8 hitter Rob Refsnyder. MLB At Bat is your #1 Mariners app. Customize your experience to catch every moment this season. Get the Mariners home screen icons and features such as the MLB.TV game of the day, pitch tracking, in-game highlights, live radio broadcast, stats, news, and much more. Download MLB At Bat today. This is the 2nd straight hitter that the Mariners have played straight up. Diego Castillo warming up inside the bullpen. Just recently made his major league debut. Throws very hard. 1-1. Paxton tomorrow. Then the Mariners coming back home. 3 games against the Angels, a 4-game series through Sunday against the Red Sox. Fireworks game mixed in there. That'll be on Friday. I hope you can celebrate Father's Day on Sunday at Safeco Field. Mike, talking about the shift, and how it would appear as though we are on pace for another record-breaking season of balls in play with the shift on. You know, the Mariners obviously shifting as much as almost anybody. Over to Seager. There is number 2, both on the ground. How about Joe Madden the other day? Not so much putting the shift on, but moving his third baseman at the time it was Tommy La Stella with Javier Baez, his second baseman, swapping them over the course of the game, depending on if they needed a better fielder at third base. They moved Baez there, moved La Stella to second if, let's say, it was a pulled-happy right-handed hitter.
Yeah, I think, well, we saw the Phillies do that with their outfielders earlier in the year. Gabe Kapler, the new manager for the Phillies, doing that. It's just fly ball goes out the left, routine. And we're going to continue to see things evolve as far as defenses go, and not surprised that Madden's out in front of that one.
We go to the 7th. It's gone 6. The Rays leading the Mariners 6-2. We take a look at Snell's final line.
6 innings again against the Mariners. 6 innings at Safeco. 7 hits, 2 runs. One of them earned. A couple of walks. Just 1 strikeout today. 95 pitches for him.
Now Diego Castillo is the new pitcher up on the mound. He made his major league debut on a Wednesday against the Nationals. He is making his Tropicana Field debut.
His average fastball 98 miles an hour and a slider at 90.
He split last year between AA and AAA. Has spent all of this season prior to his call up last week with AAA Durham, where he gave up just 3 earned runs over 26 innings and struck out 32. Gene backing away. Through the left side, turns on 95. Segura, his second hit today. Another multi-hit game for Gene Segura.
Able to hit a fastball right in the middle of the plate at 95 miles an hour. He missed it earlier in the game. Back in the 2nd inning, he was hit on the back of the hand by Snell with a 96 mile an hour fastball.
Now 29 multi-hit games for Segura, the most of the majors. Brings up Mitch Haniger. Slider goes in Haniger's favor. 1-1. Multi-hit games. You can see Nicholas Castellanos now in 2nd place. Then Altuve, Segura leading the league, leading the majors, in fact. Snyder flies to left. Snyder makes the catch for out number 1.
Bring up Nelson Cruz. Nelson with a home run his last time up. Home run to right field. We can get the Mariners right back into this ball game. One swing.
Strike 1. We have not seen the upper end velocity so far from Castillo.
Well, that was his best fastball so far at 96. Had some pretty good movement to it, though. Running back to the inside corner.
That's what the folks around here were so impressed with, talking about Castillo, the movement in addition to the velocity. That's in the dirt. Segura is into second. Maybe sometimes too much movement.
Well, last pitch was a slider. Ended up in the other batter's box. Wild pitch.
Kevin Cash picking up the phone. Nelly ahead 2-1. And tied again.
See if the young man wants to challenge him.
Fastball low and outside. 1 out walk. Mariners have a couple of men on base. I'll get home field advantage on Silver Bullet Saturdays. Download the Coors Light Rewards app and start earning points towards rewards like Mariners tickets and Coors Light gear while supplies last. Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Sucre out to have a word.
Also buying some time for Alvarado, the left-hander. Saw him in Seattle, hard-throwing left-hander.
Another guy throws upper 90s. It was Alvarado who the Mariners were able to scratch a couple of runs off of in that game on Sunday where Blake Snell started. Now Kyle Snyder, the pitching coach, joins the conversation.
But another reliever for the Rays, and his average fastball this year has been 98 also.
Well, the Mariners have Segura at second, Cruz at first. Seager ready to hit.
Kyle picked up an RBI in the first inning.
Watch out to the backstop. Both men advance. Segura to third, Cruz to second.
Another wild pitch. And this is just his second appearance. Wow, that was with a fastball this time. It was a slider before, and now the fastball that goes to the backstop.
Sound like somebody called time.
Rays He's up by 4. The infield is back.
And the shift on, in fact. 2-0. Sucre finds it right by his ankles. Now, the Mariners don't have to get all 4 runs back in this inning, but they're in pretty good shape here. 2 in scoring position, 1 out. The 2-0. Seager ahead. Good eye. Taking it just beneath the knees. 3-1.
Challenged him 2-0 with a fastball. We'll try to do the same thing right here.
2 wild pitches back-to-back 3-ball counts. Seager to the point of the shift. Segura comes down the line and scores 2 outs. Mariners a run closer now, 6-3.
Kyle will pick up another RBI. Ryan is 1 for 3.
Strike 1. Smoked and foul. Over by the Mariners bullpen. 0-2.
Turn on a fastball at 97, but it was in off the plate. So he was not able to keep it fair.
He was batting with Cruz at third base, 2 outs. The opposite way. Gomez over by the bullpen. Gomez picking up some speed. Collision. Does he hold on? It's in his glove. He makes the catch. But Gomez really shaken up.
Both of them are.
Yeah, you're right. He and Jake Bowers, the rookie, just called up.
Great hustle by both of them. You can see them both just watching the ball. I didn't see anybody call it, so they were both trying to make the catch, and that's when they get tangled up. The veteran Carlos Gomez makes the catch, the right fielder, and as Bowers, the rookie first baseman. At least they're both on their feet now.
Time to stretch. Daniel Robertson leads it off for the Rays at the bottom of the 7th. Lee is working in long relief today. Misses with ball 1.
3 innings for him so far. 3 strikeouts. He's given up 1 hit.
Balls and a strike to Robertson. Felix going just 3 innings today. Out of the plate.
He's thrown some good changeups today. Typically he's fastball, curveball, but it's a pretty good changeup too.
That was the book on Elias. Surprisingly, when he was called up from Tacoma, was that the changeup was actually performing as a better pitch for him this year than the curveball, which was a shock to hear. How good that curveball from Moranis is.
There it is.
He appealed out at first base. He does not go. Full count.
And you know how he feels about his curveball.
I love my curveball. First words we ever heard Rowan speak back in 2014.
Yeah, it's good to have him back. Paxton and Evaldi tomorrow. Should be a really good pitching matchup. James with a 2.95 ERA. Evaldi with a 3.27.
This is drifting out of play, and it does. All-star voting is in full effect right now, and you have to figure now there's good competition in terms of starting pitching in the American League. There are a ton of just tremendous off-the-chart starters so far this season,
and for shortstops too.
Right.
So vote for Segura. He's deserving.
Paxton, Segura, Diaz, Haniger is among the league leaders in terms of American League outfielders.
Gene has really played well. Look at the league leaders. He's all over the place and has really played well at shortstop.
Lost him. Robertson, a leadoff walk. Lengthy plate appearance. For it's 1, 2, 3 times the fun when you play Washington's lottery.
First walk for Elias.
Well, Gene Segura caught the eye of one of the great writers covering the majors, Buster Olney of ESPN, who put this out there today. Buster saying that there might not be a more underrated player in the majors than Segura, and he looked at his current pace, Mike. At this rate, Segura would finish the year with 221 hits, with 121 runs, with 103 driven in, 64 extra base hits, and 36 steals.
Yeah, at a premium defensive position.
Right. So get out there and vote. It'd be terrific to see Gene in DC for the All-Star game this year.
Yeah, definitely deserving.
Bowers at the plate, a couple of hits today for the rookie. Seager and Segura over on it. Kyle and foul ground. 1 out. Well, for every strikeout recorded by a Mariners pitcher at Safeco Field, Holland America Line will make a donation to the Seattle Children's Hospital and Compensated Care Fund. The Mariners thank Holland America Line for their support of both the community and Mariners baseball. One out, 1 on. Matt Duffy coming to the plate in the bottom of the 7th. 2-0.
Alvarado getting loose again for the Rays, so he will pitch the 8th inning.
Line pass Seager. And scampers over to get it. Robertson making the turn. And launch slide safe. Robertson's slow to get up at third.
Yeah, I think he slammed and his head hit the dirt. A solid base hit. Duffy is now 6 for 12 in the series. Going to give him a double on that hit. We'll watch the slide. Yep. Every now and then you'll go to dive into a base, and for whatever reason your jersey will stick just for an instant and it will slam your face right into the ground, and unfortunately that's what happened to him.
Infield in, 2 in scoring position for Wendell. Like you mentioned, the numbers for Duffy in the series. He doesn't profile with the power that a lot of third basemen have, but he can just flat out hit.
He can hit. He swung the bat well at Safeco too. He came into the game hitting .316 overall, hitting third in the lineup today as the DH, but typically he's at third. Infield is in for the Mariners.
1-1. Ooh, look at that one. And Wendell buckling a little bit. I like that curve, Mike.
74 miles an hour. Talked about that in the break, about him changing his arm angle, Aaron. He's done it quite a bit this afternoon. That one worked.
Misses away. Yeah, I just simply didn't remember. Now this was a while ago, obviously, 2014 and 15. I didn't remember Elias dropping down this frequently to left-handers.
Ooh, good pitch. 95 right on the corner. I wonder if some of that, Aaron, is because when he was a starter, they probably didn't have as many left-handed hitters in the lineup, so you wouldn't see it as often.
And obviously, guys evolve. He's been away for a little while with a different organization.
His role was different too, pitching out of the bullpen.
Man hustling over, and they aren't able to make the catch. Robertson tagging.
He dropped it on the exchange. Well, he will score. A sacrifice fly for Wendell. He had to cover a lot of ground just in front of the mounds in foul territory, and on the exchange he was going to spin and fire it to home, but he dropped it.
Gomez, who injured what looked to be his knee after making a sliding catch in the top of the 7th. Fortunately, he is all right. There goes the bat. Watch out. Side of the camera well.
Everybody moving quickly, and they seem to be fine.
Get down some equipment.
Part of the lens.
Now those are cheap. moving over towards the chalk. Now number 3. We have played 7, and the Rays lead at 7-3. Copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Seattle Mariners and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Seattle Mariners. Shift on for Zunino, who begins the 8th. Castillo back up on the mound, but Alvarado continuing to warm. A left-hander Span coming up. He will bat next. And Mike Morin set to make his Mariners debut, loosening. Strike 3. Zunino retired. Castillo will face Span as well.
Bernard with a couple of hits today, including a double.
Goes in his favor, 1-0. Lower inside corner, 2-1 on Span. This is smoked down by the pole. It is hooking, and it is a foul ball.
Clearly foul. Thought that had a chance to hit the back wall.
He turned on it. 2-2. Full count.
A home run in the first game of the series.
He's homered in his last 2 starts. Like to start in Houston. Down on strikes. Slider gets him 2 outs. Fans, our annual Ultimate Fan Contest has officially returned. Root Sports will be looking for the Ultimate Fan of the state of Montana throughout the month of June. Send us a photo and story on our website at rootsports.com/ultimate-fan, and you could win a VIP trip for 2 to Seattle in September, a personalized jersey, and more. You can find official rules at rootsports.com. Two up, 2 down. Here is Heredia. Looks at a strike, 1 ball and 1 strike. Brushes him back. Well, the Mariners are running out of outs in this one. They are playing some of their best baseball in over a decade. In fact, you look at this 20-game stretch for the Mariners, they are 16-4, their best stretch of 20 games since 2003.
Yeah, a little bit sloppy today, something we haven't seen. Some miscues in the field. Solid base hit for Heredia. Some miscues in the field, some base running mistakes.
Snyder holds Heredia to a single with 2 outs.
And I think most of the time, Guillermo, maybe I would have tried to stretch that into a double with a couple of outs, but down 3 runs. Excuse me, 4 runs. Stays on a slider.
We have a pinch hitter. Here's Ben Gamble. Gamble hitting for Romine.
Another visit out to the mound.
Kyle Snyder, the pitching coach.
Chaz Rowe, right-hander, getting loose in the pen now. It was Alvarado, but he has sat down. But yeah, you're right when you were talking about that. They've really played well, but today just wasn't one of their better games. They're also 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position, so that's something we haven't seen either. But the one thing that we've seen from them that they've been pretty consistent about is scoring runs late in games. So we'll see what happens the rest of the way.
You're right. See what Gamble can do here with 2 outs and Heredia at first. Gamble takes ball 1.
He can reach. Segura is on deck. Gene with a couple of hits this afternoon. Ben had the start yesterday, was 1 for 3 with a run scored.
Three and 0. Just gets a strike in.
Ben taking all the way as he should. Down 4 runs.
And he gets aboard. 2 on, 2 out. And here comes Kevin Cash. Chaz Rowe warming up, ready to go. Mariners started to make some noise here in the 8th. 7-3 Tampa. Seattle Mariners baseball on Root Sports is brought to you by CenturyLink, connecting you to the power of the digital world. By BNSF, sponsor of the BNSF Blast. By Jack in the Box, try the new $4.99 Jack Spicy Chicken Club Combo with toasted sourdough, new from Jack in the Box. And by Money Tree, proud to make a donation to Mariners Care for every Mariners win. Here in St. Pete, the Rays lead 7-3. Chaz Rowe, the new pitcher, to face Gene Segura with 2 outs and 2 on.
Fastball, sliders, average fastball 93 miles an hour. Segura with a couple of hits.
On the first pitch, a foul ball.
And he has been one of the best hitting with runners in scoring position. 375 average for him. Chaz Rowe, 29 appearances, a 3.63 ERA, 28 strikeouts and 22 in the third. Opponents hitting .213. He has given up 3 home runs.
Watch out. Already hit once.
That was a slider, 83 miles an hour. Watch out indeed.
Segura behind 1-2.
What are the numbers for the Mariners this afternoon? Been tough for him to drive in runs. 0 for 10.
Already at second, Gamble at first. Gamble the pinch hit walk. What a series for Segura. Another couple of hits today. The 1-2. Segura trying to drive in some runs and also bring the tie-in run to the plate. Haniger on deck. 2 on, 2 out. Once again, the 1-2. Ground ball, snared by Robertson. The shortstop's throw on target. Nifty play. Now the Mariners leave a couple. Join us June 14th during the Mariners-Red Sox game for the 2018 Mariners Care Charity Night Auction. You'll have a chance to bid on exciting items like a jersey and bat autographed by Nelson Cruz. All proceeds, of course, benefit Mariners Care. Nelson roster moves yesterday. Nicasio and Altavilla placed on the disabled list. Meanwhile, Mike Morin selected from AAA Tacoma. Daniel Vogelback recalled from the Rainiers. And Morin up on the mound now, making his Mariners debut. We have seen Morin in the past with other ball clubs, Angels and Royals.
Mostly the Angels. If you look at his numbers overall from last year. Sinking fastball at 91 miles an hour, a slider and a changeup.
Right back up the middle, Segura can't get to it.
What a series for Smith. 3 hits today. He already scored a couple of runs. Solid line drive right back up the middle. Just out of the reach of Gene.
Brings up Christian Arroyo. Well, Arroyo growing up here in the Tampa area. Yesterday, homering for his boyhood team. His first home run with the Rays. Before the game, we saw Tino Martinez and Fred McGriff, a couple of Tampa products, both born here, both played at the same high school, Jefferson High, throwing out the first pitch. And Mike Tino, you know very well, a former Mariner, very good friend of yours.
I think pretty cool. Jefferson High School also won the state championship. They're at the game today, and so I'm sure that they had an opportunity to see Fred McGriff and Tino, which would have been a thrill for them.
For sure.
It's great to see Tino here at the ballpark.
Smith taking off. Zunino, quick release, tag, D. Gordon, and he is out. Never run on Mike Zunino. He is just locked in.
He's thrown out 39% of the runners this year. That's second best in the American League. Salvador Perez from Kansas City, the best, but percentage going to jump up over 40% now for Mike.
And we'll take a look at it. Did that oven mitt get in time?
We'll take a look. It's close. Mariners winning so many one-run ball games. This is pretty valuable too in the notes today. For Mike, in the 7th inning or later, he's thrown out 71%. 71%, including ending a couple of games.
We saw it last night. Just incredible. Well, Smith 11 steals, but he also leads the league. He has been caught 6 times, not including what would be the 7th if this holds. A couple of speedsters talking it over.
Well, he had a great jump. Primera Supremo, and the dive by Smith. Really trying to accelerate into that dive to get to the base. That was close.
These legs.
The good news is he was called out. And I think you mentioned the oven mitt. I think you can see the base move a little bit when it hit there. By then I thought he'd had the tag on him, but we're going to find out right now. He is out. So with that, Mike Zunino on the year will go over 40%.
Which, Mike, a good number would be?
Oh, I think today, if you're in that 30%, 28%, you're very good.
Right around league average?
Yeah. Yeah, so to be at 40%, which the start of today, he was 2nd. Look at that number at 71% from the 7th inning on, and that number also obviously get better for him with that throw. That's clutch. That's tremendous.
Now, Mike, is it worth asking in a 4-run ball game why Malik Smith will be taken off for second base?
I don't have a problem with it if that's what you're asking me. I mean, I think why not?
Okay. Now, first strikeout for Morin in a Mariners uniform, out number 2. Brings up Refsnyder. Hey, we were talking about Tino Martinez. He wasn't very fiery, was he, Mike?
Yes, he was. Yeah. He loved to win. A real leader. And a very good player. Long career for Tino.
You're looking it up. He played in 99 postseason games.
Yeah.
Oh, 2. A late, strange swing and a miss. Refsnyder chasing after it. A couple of punch outs for Morin in his Mariners debut. We go to the 9th. Mariners down to their final 3 outs. after another as we go to the ninth. How about tomorrow? It will be James Paxton going up against Nathan Eovaldi. Eovaldi, only his third start for the Rays, coming back from Tommy John. Paxton, about as good as it gets so far this year in the American League. Mariners down to their final 3 outs. Rowe back out there. Haniger, Cruz, Seager come to the plate. Missing badly, 2-1.
Alvarado getting loose again. There's the hard throwing left-hander Kyle Seager is due up third here in the inning.
Looks like a ball got on the field from the bullpen. Here comes a 2-1 through the open right side. This Haniger do that plenty so far this year. First hit today, leadoff single.
He's done it a couple of times in this series. Pitch in the middle of the plate, 2-seam fastball. Wendell, the second baseman, you can see him on the left side of the infield. Rowe thought that was going to be a routine ground ball, but it's a base hit.
Nelly has walked twice, is also homered, his 12th of the season. Takes inside for ball 1. For Cruz, his home run was the opposite way. Center cut, 1-1. Back to the home run by Cruz in the 5th.
Going to get a fastball. Probably middle away. Blake Snell, that was the 9th home run he's given up this year. For Nelson, is 12th.
Only earned run against Snell. Right back to Rowe. Wendell to first. 2 outs. A little premature on the horn. They are anxious to celebrate what would be their first win against the Mariners this year.
See Kyle 0 for 4. But he has a couple of RBIs today.
Evens up 1-1. So Paxton versus Eovaldi tomorrow. Then the Mariners coming home. Week-long homestand. 3 games against the Angels, 4 against the Red Sox. Angels really playing well. Kinsler getting hot for the first time this year.
Next couple of weeks is going to be tough.
It's kind of odd the way the schedule works out. The Mariners out east right now. As we take a look at the Mariners calendar, they will be home for a week, as we referenced, and then the Mariners back out on the road all the way east, out to Boston and New York.
We'll finish up in Baltimore.
A lengthy road trip. Seager down to his final strike.
Almost hit him with a slider.
Angels, by the way, won 5 in a row. 4.5 behind the Mariners. Astros will play not too long from now. They continue their series in Arlington against the Rangers. Keeping our eyes on that one. Charlie Morton will get the ball for Houston. Another 2-2. Foul ball.
Pitching him away with the fastball and throwing the slider at his back foot, trying to get him to swing over the top of it. Pretty good battle.
Pitch number 7 to Seager. Ends the ball game. 7-3 the final score. The Rays get their first win this year against the Mariners. The Mariners now 5-1 against Tampa Bay this season. And the Mariners now 3-2 on the road trip. Mariners postgame presented by Alaska Airlines begins right now. Bill, Bradley, it's all yours.